Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. I am Jackie Woodside, the founder and the host of the Conscious Living Podcast. And thank you. Thank you for being here with us today for another episode. And thank you for being one of the people that cares deeply about creating a world that's more conscious, more awake, more empowered, and more enlightened. I just really appreciate that you have so many ways that you could spend your time, and you're spending your time today thinking deeply about how to live life more consciously. It means the world to me. I am just excited and happy to bring together today myself and a friend and colleague of mine, Kelly Resendez, who just blew me away the last time that we had a meeting and a really great conversation. Kelly is the founder of a women's movement called GoBundance. I love that, gobundancewomen.com. She can tell us a little bit more about that. But on top of that, she's also an executive at an organization called GoodLeap, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. She's a best-selling author and an influencer. She's leading this women's empowerment movement, and she's also a mom. So let's just say Kelly's got a lot going on in the world. So Kelly, I just so appreciate you being here with us on the podcast today. Why don't you say a little bit more about yourself so our listeners can get to know you?
Absolutely, Jackie. And thank you so much for having me. It's just incredibly honored to be here to talk about, up-leveling consciousness as well. So
Yeah.
I'll just give you a smidge on my journey. My awakening to consciousness happened in 2004. And prior to that, I was a classic overachiever, hyper productive. Productivity was my addiction. I would say it was the way that I avoided some of the things in my life that I didn't want to. And, it shows up differently for everyone.
Exactly.
When someone shows up lazy, everybody notices. When somebody shows up hyper productive, you get a great pat on the back and a lot of accolades. So it took a lot. I was in the mortgage industry starting out. Top 1% producer in the nation. So really had a different approach to the way that I did things. Instead of just looking at, how to be a great salesperson, I was also really good at systems, and I was really good at relationships and adding value beyond what I was actually just doing on a day-to-day basis. So I was able to blend, business strategy in the real estate community with also helping customers with loans. And it was just a perfect marriage, and had no idea how successful that was going to be, but did that for a long time until 2011 when I joined GoodLeap, which was, a small company at that time. And we've scaled it considerably over the last 13 years that I've been there. My awakening in 2004 came from my mom getting diagnosed with dementia. And I think for most of us, and probably most of your listeners, it's not just one day you awaken and say, wow, I have a lot of programming that I've been subscribing to in my thought processes that don't serve me anymore. Most of us get there through pain. And that truly is what it was, being that achiever, wanting to impress my mom, wanting her to be proud of me, really, ended abruptly with her diagnosis of dementia. And so I had a lot of questions that I had to start asking myself and really start to live for myself. And I've been on that 20-year journey since then in creating a lot of ands in my life, I would say, so that I can add back. I think most of us, as you become more conscious, you have this deep desire to share it with other people, just like you've done through your amazing work. And it fuels me every day.
Wow. You were really young to go through that process of your mom being diagnosed with dementia.
Absolutely. She was really young. We'll never know why. She had a very rare form called semantic dementia. She was only 57. I was just going to have I had my daughter in 2003. So I had these different life changes happening simultaneously. And what I can tell you is that as I awakened and looked around, I felt really lonely. That was the reality of it, because there weren't very many, conscious people that I had to surround myself with. And thank goodness for, different people like Maria Shriver, right? She used to have an event for women, and I went there, and it was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, there are a lot of other people too that are interested in the same thing as me. I mean, she had Elizabeth Gilbert speak there. She had Eckhart Tolle, and then over the years had other people as well. But, I think what I realized at a young age is that when you have consciousness, you must have intentionality for connection as well. Because if you're trying to get connection where you've always gotten it, you're going to find a lack of it, and you're going to feel a little bit lonely.
Wow, for sure. I love that. When you have consciousness, you're going to have connection as well. I love that. I think we don't think enough about that.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the things that I'm sure you've experienced as well is that you grow in consciousness. There's oftentimes less people that share the same values or have the same resonant energy that you do of love and oneness and similar values that you may have as you grow in consciousness. Did you experience that as well?
Absolutely. In my book, Big Voices, I actually dedicated a whole section on there to learning how to be lonely. And I think I had forgotten that I was the creator. And when I could tell everyone else, like, this is how you create business and success. And I forgot that I was also the creator of connection. And that's honestly how I came into the GoBundance world, was that I needed to be intentional about building connections with like-minded women. And there you go. I even tried to teach my kids, like, you need to learn how to be lonely, because I really, thank goodness for Dr. Shefali and helping me on my conscious parenting path. But raising extremely conscious kids, they go through the same thing. And I've had to be more intentional about teaching them. You can't just look at your, the group of people that you've grown up with for the connection. You've got to go out and create it as well.
Yeah. Really creating a conscious community of people that you want to be with, which in some ways is easier today because we live in Zoomtopia and you can connect with people all over the world. And yet, the incidence of loneliness in the US and the UK is higher now than it's ever been. So
and found what I found truly is one of the top ways that we sabotage ourselves is realizing that as we're conscious, we have this propensity to give, right? We forget to receive. We forget to ask for help. We forget to ask for that next best connection that's going to get us, where we want to go. And that's part of this, is that consciousness is amazing, but there's a lot of other laws that are in place as we're creating this amazing life of asking for help, that law of reciprocity, being open to receive. And most of us wear ourselves out, and that's where we get lonely. It's people don't understand. I'm doing all these things, and when is it going to come back? And we need to up-level thoughtfulness around asking for help.
I love that. Up-level thoughtfulness about asking for help. And I think that's something that women in particular maybe need.
Absolutely.
Well, I suppose men for different reasons. Maybe all of us need to strengthen that muscle a little bit.
Absolutely. One of my favorite, I don't know if you've ever seen one of Mel Robbins. I'm sure somebody else has done it too, but she had a post one time that was like, no one is coming. Like, no one is coming to rescue you. We don't need anyone to rescue us, but we certainly could ask for help in the areas of life that are going to be beneficial. And that's the real difference that we need to commit to.
We don't have to know it all. We don't have to be able to do it all. Yeah. It's okay for help. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most of us, when you're in consciousness, have this huge buffet of opportunity, and we are trying to do so many things at one time rather than really just finding that purpose and that passion and that superpower that we have and really going deeper in that one area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely have superpowers around consciousness and human behavior. I don't have superpowers around, health, nutrition, fitness. So I just joined a nutrition class. And one of the things that I'm
Yay!
working, yeah, because I don't know everything about that. So yeah, continuing to ask for help, reach out. So one of the things you wanted to talk about today, and I'm really open and interested in hearing your thoughts about it, is creating massive abundance. I know you have your GoBundance women's community, creating massive abundance and eliminating the top 3 ways that we sabotage our success. And I think that's
Yes.
it's just such a great topic to talk about, how we sabotage our success. So let's dive into your thoughts about that, Kelly.
Absolutely. So I think all of us have, that self-preservation programming that our brain comes with, as
Yeah.
one of the greatest gifts that anyone could ever give. And I hope one day to have an opportunity to thank him more personally. But, Eckhart Tolle really woke me up to that idea that I was not my thoughts.
Yeah.
And so many of my thoughts would lead to self-sabotaging behavior, whether it was, in procrastination or in loneliness or isolation, or, my preferred method of self-sabotage was definitely in perfectionism.
Okay.
And so there are some ways that we all have these unique things. But what I've really found is that, when it comes to women that are like I am meant for more, like my business is amazing, I need to reach more people, or I have, so much to give and I just haven't ever, gotten to that next level. One of those things is believing that you have to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
And that includes overcoming self-sabotage. So when you believe you have to do everything on your own, that's when we freeze our ability to get to that next level. So many people have replicable models for scaling your business, replicable models for, getting your health in order, whatever area of your life that you're really focused on, going deeper in that one area. That's really been the most effective part of my journey in the last 20 years. Again, you're at this buffet of all these choices. When I began, it was number one, recognizing I wasn't my thoughts and focusing on my physical well-being. Once I got my physical well-being in check, then I started to find and isolate some of those bigger areas, like being detached to outcomes, or, really eliminating the people-pleasing part. And I continue to do that in my life today, is I just find those bigger things to just really focus on all year. So if I'm reading or listening or asking for help, it's all going to be around that one area. So that's one of the top ways I would say, is just believing that you're alone.
Yeah.
So many female business leaders just, they don't have a community that really supports them and holds them accountable. And when you're a high achiever already, the people around you are going to say, really, Jackie, you're going to do what? Like, aren't you ever satisfied or content? And that voice can get in your head a little bit, instead of being in a group of people that are going to say, well, how can I support you?
Right.
What's the next best
What's the
connection
next
that I can
level?
make, Jackie?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything I can hold you accountable to? Like, what is it that I can do? That sounds like an amazing purpose and way of doing things. I just believe that we can have so many ands in our life, but we can only have them if we have the right, I would say, support in place.
Yeah. You've used that phrase a couple times now, and I'm going to ask you to say more about it, that we can have more ands in our life.
Yes.
So deepen that for us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at women's history, right, it has evolved considerably.
Okay.
I'll say that we went from being an integral part of community and decision-making and everything over the history of time. And that has changed. That changed. We went backwards for centuries and got back to maybe women just took a more subservient role and took care of things in the family or the home or other things. And then with feminism and with women entering the workforce, a lot of that changed. Well, we still aren't where we need to go, right? We're not at that place where a lot of women must not believe that they can be a high-powered executive and a great mom and a great partner and a great friend and have great health, or else we would see different numbers. Like, the numbers reflect that women don't believe it's possible. We're not representing our fair share of, especially C-suite.
Yeah.
Like we just saw that go down for the first time,
Oh,
leadership
really?
roles for the first time. And so, and it wasn't high to begin with. So
Right.
it's the first time we've seen it go down. And I think that's because as women, we're like, I don't want to just be successful in my career. I want to be successful in my career and be a great mom and be these other things, you know? And so for myself, when I really look at my abundance mindset, one of the top beliefs is I'm the creator of my own reality. Well, that means I can be an executive and a mom and write books and speak and co-own a women's mastermind and take time to have conversations with people like you, which gives me so much energy, right? And so I feel like I'm in abundance because I'm still impacting. And so that's what I think we need to wake up to, is we need to wake up to, we're so powerful that we can create whatever world that it is. Like my role here, I created the job description. Like I knew what I wanted to do 13 years ago and found the right person that was really, you know, that it worked well with. So I think that we just need to be more open to how powerful we are.
Wow, I love what you're saying. The adding more ands to our world, but I'm going to assume that a lot of women listening to this are absolutely exhausted listening to what you just said. You know, being a high-powered executive and a really good mom and a great wife and taking, you know, so I don't want to lose track of where we're at with this. So the first thing we're talking about, the three things that sabotage us from
Yeah.
having a level of abundance and success. And the first thing you're saying is going it alone or believing that
Yes.
we can't, being able to do it more. So you're saying being able to add the ands is not feeling like we have to do it all alone, that we can bring in other supports, other people to hold us accountable, to see us, see our possibilities.
Yeah.
See our strength, see our capacities, and to hold us to that high level. But say a little bit more, Kelly, because I'm going to guess that there's a lot of women listening to this right now that are just like, look, man, I just don't see how I can deliver at that level. So say a little
Here's
bit
what
more.
I'd say.
Yeah.
You haven't made the ultimate decision that needs to be made in order to get to this next level of abundance, which is my emotional and physical well-being comes first.
Okay.
Period. Like non-negotiable, no matter what. And I know what my human capacity is. And so I know that if I push past that, that's when I drop into unconsciousness.
Mhm.
That's when I drop into the self-sabotaging behaviors. So I've got to prioritize self-care. I've got to make sure that that comes first, like non-negotiable 365 days out of the year. I do my morning ritual. I know how I want to feel. I do the things every day that I know are going to get me there, whether it's having accountability with a trainer showing up at my house. Like I wish that I was accountable enough to work out on my own. I'm not.
Yeah.
I've had to accept it. That's beyond my human capacity,
Yeah.
right? It is beyond it. I also know that I'm highly effective in the amount of time that I work. And I think a lot of people struggle with focus. You know, I started my career before cell phones came out. I started my career before email came out. I believe those two things alone, you learn how to put boundaries on them.
Yeah.
You will completely change the way you do things. Like I wrote my last book 25 minutes a day for an entire year.
Yeah.
Everyone has 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone listening probably spends, and we know the averages for Netflix or TV or whatever, or social media. Like we're not spending our time doing the things that we really love. We're doing the things that really numb us to that feeling of overwhelm that so many people face. And that word is not in my vocabulary. Like I am big into neuro-linguistic programming and what I say to myself. And like, I won't use those words. I won't use the word busy. I won't use the word tired. I won't use any of those words because, you know, I consider myself like an energizing machine. Like every day, how can I create energy? Who do I surround myself with? What am I doing? Like, how am I protecting it? Do I have really strong boundaries for the people around me? So it's not all about asking for help. It's making the decision. I'm putting myself first. And in doing that, I know what my priorities are. Like my children, I love them. My sweetheart, Kent, I love him. They are my priorities beyond my emotional and physical well-being. And it doesn't mean I'm spending hours a day with them. It just means I'm spending quality conscious time with them.
Right. Exactly right. Love that. All right. So let's go back. The things that kind of get in the way, how we sabotage our abundance, how we sabotage our success. Number one is going it alone, not having a community of people that hold us to a higher level. Let's go to number two.
Yeah. Number two is definitely not having a system to up level our leadership skills.
Let's talk about that.
It needs to be systemized. Like it should be a consistent system for looking at, okay, where am I right now? Where's my emotional intelligence? Like who I'm being now isn't going to get me where I need to go. How do I ensure that I have dedication towards my leadership journey that is going to be expansive and continuous and never ending? Most people stop, they stop. Like I look at part of the challenge, I believe, with conscious parenting is that parents read what to expect when you're expecting, and then it stops. Then they just go autopilot on raising their kids, and maybe they wait until they need help before they already put the systems in place that are there. It's the same thing in leadership. Like you've got to be in this place that it's consistently, getting you to this next level. And I want to see more female CEOs. I want to see more growth amongst, female owned companies. And so we're going to have to be in this place where we're constantly getting to this next level.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of systems are you talking about for women to put in place for themselves?
Yeah, no, just in terms of like having an amazing vision for your business, having that business playbook dialed in, knowing exactly what skills you need to have at all times to be able to get to this next level, and then being able to apply them on a regular basis. And a lot of companies like here, we're constantly pouring into our leaders so that they can constantly be, pouring into their employees. And it helps solve so many issues from retention to recruitment to innovation. A lot of employees don't feel the freedom to give feedback, to help a company get to the next level. They quit and then they go start it someplace else because they don't feel that empowered. And I think as leaders, we have to be, especially those of us that are in, key roles, you have to be open to that. And part of it is letting the ego go. And that's part of this system of just, how do I manage my triggers? How do I manage overthinking? How do I put in place some of these systems that are going to help me, kind of stay in this conscious leadership, role that I'm intended for?
Okay. All right. And so that's part of what you teach people is how to put systems in place.
Absolutely. Within GoBundance, 100%. That's part of, we've got a growth accelerator. And so many people think a business success is about what you're doing and your product. It's just as important to focus on who you're being. If you don't have an abundance mindset, if you're not radiating and attracting and magnetizing yourself to maximum success, it's never going to happen. Fear is one of those things that so many people don't realize. Like fear is something you should systemize. In my trigger management, system that I coach to, it's like, no, fear is always going to show up. Like it's always going to show up.
Right.
When you know how to move through it, it'll change the way that you navigate your business.
Mm-hmm. You want to say a little bit about that? How do people move through fear? It's something that everybody deals with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if you don't have fear, your brain's probably not working right.
Right.
There are some of those people that are like, their brain is just, they push past it and it just doesn't even show up.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at managing triggers, I just kind of use a 4-step plan of being able to see triggers. Number one is separate from who you are. I don't believe every emotion. I don't believe every thought. I see them as completely separate. So I always just really look at like, what is the fear? Is it fear of rejection? Is it fear of embarrassment? Is it fear of success? which I would probably say as many people have a fear of success as they do, that fear of rejection. So really isolating what that emotion is tied to.
Yep.
And then looking at like, what really is your preference? Like, what is your greatest preference that you want to get to? And where is this fear out of alignment? Too many people want certainty. And when you are running a business, the uncertainty is something that every day you should be preparing for.
Yeah.
And so really understanding what that preference is. And then I always just make it funny. I call it the hallucination phase of like, okay, let's take the fear and hallucinate the absolute worst case scenario of any and all things that could ever potentially happen, just to disrupt that rumination that the fear is causing in our own brain.
Yeah.
And then the fourth piece is like really just making a decision. Like, instead of just overthinking, is giving myself a deadline. Like, okay, I need to make a decision. I have two choices. I can avoid this and not do it. That's an option always.
Yep.
Or I can choose to grow through it. How can I use it to get to this next level? And so no matter where it is, maybe it's public speaking. I didn't get that fear. I'm grateful. I can get on a stage and not like, it doesn't show up at all. We know more people are afraid of that than they are death, right? Just taking something so simple and really using this strategy, because if you're going to be the influential leader that you're destined to be, you have to get that authority. And the way you get authority is in numbers. So there's just different ways that you can just kind of systemize it and be able to overcome whatever it is that you're facing.
It's really great. I love it. All right. So the second one is have systems in place. The first one is have community people that hold you higher, see your possibilities, hold you accountable. Second one is create systems that move you forward. And the third?
The third I'd say is kind of combined with the first one a little bit, which is it is finding that board of directors in your life, really finding that tribe or community of people that are going to be there when you need to ask for help. So the first one is really more about doing it alone, believing you're alone, feeling that isolation, not asking for help. The second one again is really just, not taking responsibility and having a system for success. Cause I look at success as a system. When I built my mortgage, team, it was just knowing everybody's job responsibilities, who's doing what kind of personalities, who are the who's, what is the playbook, how do I run this day in and day out, because it's our humanness that gets in the way of a well-oiled machine, which is going to be your business. And that third piece is just not having that community of people that are going to be able to support you in getting to the next level. And I believe decisions, made in a silo, I know you already know everything that you need to do. I know you have that intuitive knowing, but I also know that our brain has a lot of scaffolding around that intuition. It has a lot of blocking that's going on just simply because it wants to protect you. And you need people that are going to be that board of directors, just simply to remind you what you already know to be true.
Right?
Like you were made for this. Like you were made for this podcast. You are made to be this light worker. And so often we're like, am I? Like, I need some social proof here to know that I'm doing what it is, because we're in a world now where it's how many likes and how many this and how many that.
I know,
and
right?
all of this. And it gets us thrown off course. It really does. And we've got to get in this expansiveness and this accountability where somebody notices, like, Jackie, it kind of like, I'm just curious, like, it kind of feels like you're playing a little smaller. Is that really your vision, or is it really bigger than that? And you're just afraid to raise a little bit of capital and do this or do that and ask those amazing questions.
Really great. It's really great, Kelly. That's so helpful. You're touching on a topic that I want to go right at it now. You're touching on this topic of like mindset or consciousness, level of consciousness. So let's go right at it as kind of the key to building a successful life, a successful business. Talk about the importance of somebody's level of consciousness or mindset as they're building a successful business and life.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of look at it as a line of consciousness, right? You've got consciousness up here, and then below the line is going to be the scarcity,
Yeah.
the victim.
Yeah.
We have been raised into the victim mentality.
Yeah.
Our
It's all around us. It's all
our
around.
brains are programmed to be in that because
Yep.
they're, it is just a danger predicting machine, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't know the difference between Jackie's being attacked in a dark alley and Jackie just got a review that she didn't really like. It just
Right.
doesn't know the difference.
Mhm.
And so it's so important that we all, at some point in our life, hit Control Alt Delete on all of the beliefs. Start from scratch. I always say create your vision, then create the mindset that's needed.
Yeah.
Most people approach things from, this is just who I am, that fixed place. And now what do I want to do? And I always just start with, how do you want to feel? Like, how do you want to feel every day that you wake up? Do you want to feel grateful and blessed and bounce out of bed that you get to do this? Or do you want to feel trapped? Do you want to feel that lack of freedom? And so mindset is the differentiator.
Yeah.
People that are in victim are like, well, you're never going to understand, Jackie. You've never gone through anything. Well, we've gone through it all of us. We've all had loss, whether it's the loss of a parent, in my situation, having a mentally ill sibling, being in a place where there's so much pain, like in the company, rising interest rates were a major challenge. Like, we're not without challenge. It's the way in which we navigate the challenge that's the differentiator. We see them as opportunities. I just always call whatever happens as clarity creators. Like, okay, I didn't love that. What clarity can I get? But I need to stay conscious enough after whatever I'm experiencing. Because the emotional triggers, I wish I created an emotional trigger system where they went away.
Right? Yeah, I know.
I wish I could tell you, you're
Just
never going to feel sad, angry. Now, I will say that a lot of women have suppressed anger. Most of us are unleashing our good girl in us, trying to always be right and do the right things and get to this place of, radical authenticity, which we need to be in. And so we're always going to have those triggers. Yeah. It's what we do next. That mindset is going to hold us, right? Yeah. So if I experience something, remaining conscious enough to say, I should listen to my body right now. I'm experiencing some, for me, it's my voice. My voice changes considerably when I've got something going on emotionally. I should listen. And is there really something I should be angry about right now? Because it shows up as sadness initially for me. And it's not right. It's not really what I am. Yeah. And so I just have to ask myself better questions. And that mindset, some of the major beliefs that I know in the mindset that change everything, is that everything's always working out. Like it is.
It's one of my fundamental beliefs that I've chosen to cultivate.
Yeah.
Things always working out for a higher good. Yeah.
Always. And, as you go higher and higher on consciousness, like you said, there's fewer and fewer people.
Yeah.
There's just as many.
Yeah.
But you've got to be more intentional about surrounding yourself because it's so easy to slip back.
Yeah.
I love Kiva Shouterin. One of those things is like, she's like, sometimes people stay there for a second, a minute, like however long, just whatever that glimpse is. It is so easy to step back.
Yeah, well, mass consciousness does have an impact on your experience.
100%. 100%.
I was just running a retreat over the past weekend, and I was talking about this notion that your thoughts aren't true, that they only have power over you to the degree to which you believe them. Mm-hmm. And your emotions aren't true. They're not facts. They're feelings, and that feelings aren't true. The people in the room really had a hard time even believing it. Like, they're like, so I do think that speaks volumes to kind of where we are in terms of the evolution of consciousness, that people are just starting to really understand that thoughts aren't facts. They're just patterns of neurons firing. They're repetition.
But look at what we're unwinding, right? You're 2, you're 3, you're having a temper tantrum, your preference isn't being met. And what is the first thing that your parent does? Like, oh, hey, stop crying. Like, let's go get a cookie. Let's
Right.
go distract you. Let's do something different. Like, well, maybe that's their problem. That's the first thing I tell parents. Stop saying that. Stop telling your kids that something else is because of someone else's hurt.
Right.
Let them experience whatever they're feeling and go from there. I mean, and it is, I pray in my lifetime, the more of us that are out there just doing the work and making sure that, we're unwinding decades of just, I would say, misprogramming that we keep speaking up. We just keep speaking up. My big thing is in business scaling and growth. I also speak on parenting. My kids are teenagers and hopefully they would agree, but I tried to stay really conscious. Like, I'm not gonna own your pain. I'm an empath.
Yep.
And Dr. Christiane Northrup, if you're listening, instrumental in me understanding that I needed to be a trained empath. Like, it's one thing to be an empath. Like, of course, we just take on so much for our kids. We jump in the boat of suffering with them. And then nothing ever improves. And it's like, I wonder why this isn't working.
Yeah.
I wonder why I keep trying to solve problems for my kids instead of teaching them how to solve them on their own, or do all their college applications for them, or do whatever, any of the things that parents do for their kids today. Right. And so looking at how can we, just become conscious leaders so that we can keep impacting all of these systems that are flawed at this point.
Exactly right. Becoming conscious leaders. Yeah. The more conscious that we can be as leaders, the more conscious society that we can create. That's really,
absolutely. And that doesn't mean perfect. It's not, I am a perfect person. Sometimes it might take me a day to be like, oh yeah, there was a lot of dropping below the line happening, and what clarity do I have? Well, you know what? I didn't sleep as well. I didn't work out. I didn't set limits on the amount of time that I dedicated to any one thing. Yeah. I have to own that. Yeah. And when you know your human capacity to stay conscious and in your mindset, it changes everything. Exactly. I kind of call it an abundance audit. Like, after every conversation, I'll take a few minutes. Oh my gosh, what an amazing conversation with Jackie. I feel so much more energized. How do I do more of that? Versus just had a conversation. Now I'm going to go get on my text and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And there's not the thoughtfulness of, how do I live my life? Who do I spend time with? What do I do so that I have that maximum amount of energy?
So great. Kelly, you've brought so much to this call, so much energy, so much wisdom, so much consciousness. I really want to thank you for that. And I know people listening are just going to be excited to hear about the Abundance platform and to learn more about you. What's the best place for people to track you down, to stalk you, and to learn more about GoBundance?
Absolutely. Would love it. So I have a 3-part series for all of your listeners that is really about eliminating some of those ways that we sabotage ourselves. I didn't get in deep to them today, but they can go to www.downloadthepod.com. That's the best way. Within GoBundance Women, you're put in a pod of 4 to 5 women who really become kind of the board of directors in your life and provide that accountability and celebration. That's another thing that I didn't touch on today. That's part of the reason for community. Like, if you're a badass, get on top of a soapbox and let everybody know. And most of us, again, have been told, like, don't brag, don't do this. And you need that safe space. So, you can definitely check that out and we can go forward from there.
Good. That's so great. Kelly, I'm so glad that we've met and that we're collaborating on some fun projects together. I look forward to our future collaborations, and I'm just so grateful to have you as a guest on the Conscious Living podcast today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for all of this that you bring into the world. It's been amazing.